Colin. All right, flip it.
I'll get the lubricant.
There's no time for lubricant.
There's always time for lubricant!
This season,
Is there some sort of alien attack happening here?
have a nice end of the world.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another of my misunderstood movie reviews. Today I'm taking a look at the 2001 science fiction comedy Evolution. The film is directed by Ivan Reitman, the late great Ivan Reitman, and it stars David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, Julianne Moore, Seann William Scott and Ted Levine. Now the film focuses on a small town in the US, I think it's Arizona, something like that. David Duchovny and Orlando Jones both play like college professors. David Duchovny's Ira Kane, who's like a disgraced ex-military scientist. And a meteorite kind of lands just outside of town. And they both discover it, and they discover that this meteorite is creating like life at an exponential rate, evolution essentially. The military find out about it, take over, and then it gets out of control, and it's up to Duchovny, Orlando Bloom's Harry Block, and Julianne Moore's Allison, and Seann William Scott to all come together to come up with a solution before the Earth is overtaken by this new alien life form. Right, what are my thoughts on Evolution? Now, this is a film I went to see at the cinema back in the day. I remember going to the cinema and watching this, and my first thought, and this is probably why the film didn't do magnificently well or anything, my first reaction was a tinge of disappointment when I saw this film. I remember coming out of the cinema and kind of thinking, that just felt like a bit of a rehash of Ghostbusters. And it absolutely does. And I think that's one of the things I think weighs this down, is it does feel like it's a bit of a rehash of Ghostbusters. There's even some scenes in it ripped straight from Ghostbusters in many ways. But once you kind of get rid of that baggage, underneath is actually a very entertaining film here that I think has aged really quite well. I rewatched it for this review just a couple of days ago and had a really fun time with this film, and it's a number of years since I've seen it. I thought David Duchovny, who at the time was red hot because of the X-Files, it was such a smart choice to get him in this film. And there's obviously a couple of smart references in here, with his X-Files character, Fox Mulder, when he's talking about the government, and he says, "No, I know those guys, you can't trust them." It's very smart, really, how they do all that. And he plays his part really well, and he plays this role really straight and down the middle, and with a real dry sense of humour, and it really works. And Orlando Jones, who plays Harry Block, he's the comedy sidekick, I suppose. And again, I remember at the time thinking he was like a pale imitation of Eddie Murphy and something, and I was a lot younger then, if you like, and not as tolerant, I suppose. And now I can see his performance and what it is, and again, it's a very entertaining performance, and he has many of the best moments in the film, Orlando Jones. And definitely one of the funniest scenes is, when they have to remove that alien from him, from him rectally, if you like. It's childish, but it's undeniably funny. Seann William Scott, again, was very popular at the time because of the American Pie films, and he brings his real energy into the film, and he kind of adds that third element to the team, and then Julianne Moore becomes the fourth element to that team. Now, initially, Julianne Moore's character is not given a great deal to do. Her only trait, really, is that she's clumsy and she keeps tripping up. It's not a particularly well-written character, but there is some chemistry there between her and Duchovny, and it does develop over the film, and she becomes much more tolerable, I think, by the conclusion of the film. Her introduction to the film, I thought, was quite clumsy, and it doesn't do a great deal, I don't think, for the character. Ted Levine plays the villain as usual, the cocky military general that doesn't have a clue what he's doing. I think the effects here as well, they were obviously impressive at the time. They had to have been, because after rewatching it, I was still impressed with the effects. I thought they looked pretty good. Now, with this being a family film, it's rated a PG. They obviously couldn't make it too scary, and I think again that's maybe something that let it down a bit. I think they probably could have gone a little scarier here and there with some of the designs, but some of them are a bit childlike. The designs. I think the scariest moment in the film is them apes. You know, when they come up from the cave below and they attack everybody. That's easily the scariest moment of the film, and that actually works really well. And I think the film could have done with more of that. I think the scene where that creature learns to breathe oxygen for the first time and starts flying around the shopping centre, and you know that leans more on comedy than scares. And I think they could have balanced that a little bit better with more scares and still had the comedy. But overall, I think the film really works. So the whole idea of the head and shoulders thing is just bonkers crazy. You know, and again, that feels like it's leaning into the Ghostbusters thing, you know, using the slime from Ghostbusters 2. And yeah, I think, while I think this film struggled, certainly at the time, to find its identity, I think as time has gone on, it kind of has found now its identity, and it doesn't feel as closely associated to I. Reitman's other work. It's got, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's got Ivan Reitman's signature all over this. You know what I mean? He's very good at what he does. He always has been. It's fun. It's got memorable characters. We've got an early performance as well from Ethan Suplee. And if you don't know who that is, in this film, he's like the big college student who helps out at the end, the really chunky one. And if you look at him these days, if you look at his film career these days, he's lost all the weight and he's actually bulked up massively. He's quite a muscular guy now. We've got Dan Aykroyd making an appearance as the governor, which is always nice to see Dan Aykroyd turning up in an Ivan Reitman film. So it's got a lot going for it, this film. I think it stood the test of time. It's got some good moments in it. It kind of does everything it sets out to do, and for me it's a fun time. I mean, they could obviously, I think, have made it a bit better. I think they kind of could have, I think, definitely gone down the scare routes a little bit more. I mean, and interestingly as well, we got some. Bill Murray was considered to be in the film. Michael J. Fox was considered to take the part, I think, of Wayne, which is the Sean William Scott part. Will Smith was considered for the Harry Black role. John Cusack and Leonardo DiCaprio were considered for the Duchovny role. So, you know, I mean, I think they actually got the casting pretty bang on here, if I'm being particularly honest. I think everybody's got good chemistry. It's a film that I think has aged really quite well, and if you've never seen Evolution, then you should check it out. It's a fun, entertaining time. Is it you know, one of the best in Ivan Reitman's filmography? No, he's done much better films than this, but it is still watchable, still entertaining, and a pretty good time as well. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed checking out this misunderstood movie review. My series of reviews where I take a look at films that have been overlooked, either by critics, film goers, or the box office, and are films that I think deserve a second chance, and maybe a film that you should seek out and watch if you've never checked it out. So thanks for joining me, guys. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.